Revealed. How my son's unexpected demand to leave our beach house transformed my life forever. John sat on the sun-warmed patio, the faint rustle of the waves meeting the shore echoing the laughter that had once filled this sacred place. The beach house, a labor of love designed for family joy, had cradled countless memories. Now, it was at the center of a storm he never saw coming. "Dad, I want to leave the beach house for good." Ryan's voice cut through the air, jagged and unyielding. Shock turned to disbelief, and then a prick of anger ignited deep within him. How could his son even think such a thing? John's heart raced. This wasn't merely about the house. It was about everything he had poured into it. Countless hours drawn on paper, late nights spent perfecting every corner, believing it would solidify his family's happiness. The walls seemed to close in, filled with the echoes of joyous family gatherings. His career as an architect had been the compass guiding him, yet his son's words felt like a compass turn he hadn't anticipated. Disappointment slithered alongside an aching guilt. Ryan's rejection felt like a personal failure, a betrayal of all John held dear. He hesitated, searching for words that could bridge the chasm between them. "This place is our family's legacy, son," he finally managed, voice trembling as if the sea itself was crashing inside him. But even as he said it, doubt surged. Was he imposing his legacy on Ryan? What if his son longed for something beyond the sandy confines of what John envisioned? The afternoon sun began to slip lower on the horizon, casting long shadows that mirrored the growing unease in his chest. John's thoughts churned furiously. Could he have neglected the emotional ties that ought to bind them? Between work commitments and the pursuit of prestige, had he neglected the connection that was the true foundation of this family? Ryan was awash in frustration, desperate for validation. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every painted wall now felt like a reminder of unrealized expectations. Every photograph a haunting echo of who he had once been. John gripped the armrest, anger mixed with anguish. He wanted to scream. Did Ryan not appreciate the sacrifices made along the way? Conflicting feelings spilled out. At one moment, he was the hard-working architect wanting to build a future. The next, he was just a father aching for his son's love. "Dad, it's not about the house!" Ryan shouted, frustration layering over desperation. The words struck like a slap, forcing John to confront a truth that chilled him. Was his vision of success blinding him to the actual needs of his family? The waves crashed harder against the shore, mirroring the tumult inside. Caught on the precipice of transformation, John's breath quickened. A choice loomed before him, heavy with the weight of unspoken fears. Would he cling tightly to his dreams or pursue a deeper connection with Ryan? This moment was just the beginning, a cry for understanding amidst the storm that raged within. The tension hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating yet illuminating. It revealed details John had long overlooked. He sat there, paralyzed, the weight of Ryan's declaration pressing against his chest. This wasn't just a disagreement over a beach house, but a profound reckoning of expectations and identities. John's professional pride had shaped his life. As an architect, he had meticulously crafted not just buildings, but a vision for what family and success should embody. Yet, here he was, faced with the reality that his son didn't see this space as the culmination of love, but rather as a prison bound by unmet desires. John's desire to build a legacy had left him blind to the possibility that legacy could be a weight rather than a gift. As the golden light waned, John's mind raced through bursts of clarity and confusion. He recalled moments he thought were significant but realized may have gone unnoticed by Ryan. Family dinners interrupted by late calls from clients, weekends spent honing projects while Ryan played alone, the weight of ambition crushing what he thought were shared dreams. Was Ryan yearning for a father rather than a provider? The repeated absence bore an emotional cost that haunted John. "Then what do you want?" he finally asked, exhaling a breath he didn't realize he held. Ryan flinched, and for a fleeting moment, hesitation flickered across his features. "I want to live, Dad. I want to explore who I am without feeling obligated to what you expect of me. This house isn't home anymore." The truth hurt like a physical blow. John could see that unchained spirit in Ryan. The boy had grown, become a man with his passions and dreams. How had he failed to notice? His commitment to his career had blinded him to the vibrant, independent persona that was emerging from his son. Suffused with a sense of urgency, John's need to prove his worth transformed into a new resolve. He needed to engage with Ryan beyond the conventional roles, father and son, provider and dependent. They were at a threshold that demanded a shift, an understanding that could reshape them both. "I need to understand you better," John stated, forcing vulnerability into his voice. "I want to know what you dream about. What makes you feel alive?" Ryan looked up, surprise mingling with cautious hope. "I want to travel, see new places, meet different people. I don't want your life. I want to build my own." A wave of realization crashed over John, pulling him toward an uncharted territory, the possibility of embracing change, letting go of the tightly wound expectations he had harbored. The desire to defend his legacy shifted to a yearning to support Ryan's voyage of self-discovery. "Okay," John said, "let's explore that together." They sat in silence, the air now charged with the prospect of a renewed connection. Ideas and realizations swirled in John's mind. Perhaps the architecture of their relationship could be remodeled, just like one of his projects. It would require dialogue, patience, and an openness to failure. But wasn't that what the past led to? The dusk settled, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet. The familiar sounds of the ocean took on a soothing tone, allowing room for reflection. As John glanced at Ryan, he felt something shift within himself. There was a mutual recognition here, a realization that both needed to grow, individually and together. However, John's internal voice flickered with doubt. He still grappled with the shadows of his fears. Could he genuinely let go of the old constructs of success? Would he find fulfillment in the chaos of uncertainty? As those questions lingered, the weight of their conversation loomed larger. The storm had not dissipated, but had transformed into a hard rain of possibility, each drop asking them to face the elements of change. The journey forward promised to be tumultuous, yet filled with discovery. Would John have the strength to embrace it? And as the ocean roared below, and the sky shifted from dusk to night, John knew their next steps were not merely a change in scenery. They were strides into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side of this confrontation? The answer hung tantalizingly close, just beyond the horizon. The air was thick with the brine of the ocean, mingling with the tensions that still lingered from their earlier exchange. John sat motionless, absorbing the monumental shift that had just taken place between him and Ryan. It was as if he stood on a precipice, the ground beneath him crumbling under the weight of his own expectations. Questions spun around his mind like the restless waves crashing against the shore. What did it mean to support Ryan's dream? How could he reshape his fatherly role from authoritarian provider to a nurturing ally? His thoughts swirled, each decision steeped in complexity, each potential path fraught with uncertainty. It was daunting, the thought of relinquishing the strict parameters he had always defined for success. But in moments like these, growth often demanded radical shifts. In an effort to regain composure, John stood up and paced the wooden deck, the creaking boards underfoot simulating the disquiet within him. What if I helped you plan your travels? He proposed, too suddenly, impulsively. The notion surprised even him. What if we mapped out the experiences you want to seek? Ryan's expression shifted, curiosity sparked against the backdrop of disbelief. You'd really do that? Why not? John responded, the words spilling forth as if they held the key to unlocking a new realm of fatherhood. I want you to have adventures, to find what makes you tick. We could brainstorm together. I could help with the logistics. You could teach me as much as I could teach you. The surprise in Ryan's eyes morphed into a cautious smile, a barely perceptible flicker of hope illuminating the shadows. John felt a stirring within himself, a lightness against the heaviness of his previous fears, a sensation almost alien yet invigorating. Perhaps by stepping into this new space of vulnerability, he could help dismantle his own constructs of success, those temporal pursuits he had buried beneath the weight of architectural accolades. But doubt shadowed him. What did he truly know about exploration? His life had been a catalogue of blueprints and schedules. Would he even be capable, much less credible, in guiding Ryan toward dreams rooted in spontaneity rather than solid foundations? The walls he had built encased years of rigid ambition. Could he dismantle them to allow this relationship to breathe? Let's do it, he said firmly, infused with a sudden resolve. Despite the gravity of those words, he felt an unexpected thrill coursing through him. Let's talk about where you want to go first. As they embarked on their discussion, John noticed the transition in Ryan's demeanor. Suddenly, the boy felt less distant, less like an opponent and more like a collaborator. Each destination Ryan mentioned illuminated a part of himself that John had never observed. Barcelona, Sydney, Kyoto, each place represented not only adventure, but a piece of Ryan's heart. Hours slipped by on that deck until night cloaked them in darkness, the stars emerging like aspirations hung in the sky. Together, they explored these dreams, and John found himself growing in unexpected ways, not in the fulfillment of the architect's vision, but as a father yearning for a shared journey. In the quiet hum of the evening, John recognized that this dialogue could be the architectural feat of their relationship, a framework rebuilt on mutual understanding. But as ideas flowed freely, the remnants of his earlier fears whispered ominously. What if he failed to follow through? What if this was just another fleeting moment of clarity? Yet amidst the uncertainties, he seized a newfound understanding that launching into the unknown also meant confronting fears directly and taking measurable steps toward progression. Together, they could reshape their futures, connect over shared paths instead of diverging ones. Still, as the evening drew to a close and the final glimmers of light faded, John was left grappling with a profound realization. Though they could begin clearing a roadmap for Ryan's travels, John himself needed to embark on a journey, one to redefine his role and reconcile the man he had been with the father he aspired to be. That realization pressed upon him with an urgency he had not felt before. The time had come not just to encourage Ryan, but to face his own shifting identity as a man bound by the weight of legacy. What awaited him beyond this personal exploration of self? The uncertainties loomed large, beckoning, and as the ocean swayed with the night, it whispered of discoveries yet to unfold, inviting John to emerge, not only as a father, but as an individual rewriting the blueprint of his own life. John awoke the next morning to the cacophony of seagulls piercing the quietude of the beach. The conversations from the previous night danced in his mind like the rising sun spilling gold across the horizon. He lay in bed for a moment, absorbing the weight of realization. He had opened a door he could never close. The support he vowed to give Ryan weighed heavy on his heart, but the thought thrilled him nonetheless. With his morning coffee in hand, he stepped out onto the deck. The salty breeze whipped around him, invigorating and sharp, reminiscent of the transformation he yearned to undergo. The ocean's rhythmic pulse mirrored his racing thoughts. What would his first steps be as a father and as a man who sought to embrace uncertainty? The word map echoed in his mind, not as a tool of navigation, but as a metaphor for forging a new relationship. Maps had guided him in his professional life. Perhaps it would also serve as a framework in his personal one. Could he create a new blueprint, not just for Ryan's travels, but for his own path as well? Determined, John grabbed his journal and sat at the wooden table just beyond the previous night's conversation spot. Ideas flowed as he sketched out potential destinations, drawing vibrant lines connecting places that represented not only adventure, but lessons too. What would it mean to venture into the uncertainty together? He wrote about how each location could symbolize a chance for Ryan to learn, but also for him to grow. Suddenly, the ink felt like a key unlocking layers within him. In this space, he no longer had to be the architect of rigid structures. He could be a collaborator in exploration. The possibility lit a fire in him. What if he documented this journey? He jotted notes not just about places, but about feelings he wanted to explore: fear, joy, anticipation. What would it feel like to let go completely and embrace the chaos that travel often invites? As he wrote, the urgency within him transformed into a strategy. He envisioned himself standing beside Ryan, both of them tackling challenges together. That evening, before heading in from his writing session, he joined Ryan on the beach, who was collecting seashells with enthusiasm. "You know," John began cautiously, "I've been thinking about what we did last night. Planning your travels, it's not just about the places, it's about both of us growing. I want to share that journey with you. No set paths, only discovery." Ryan paused, looking up at him with a newfound intensity. "Can we really do it? All those places?" "Absolutely. And I want to take off the safety harness I've worn too. I want to learn from you as much as you can learn from me," John replied, surprising himself with his commitment. He understood that to grow this relationship further, he would need to embrace the unknown himself. Yet beneath the surface of excitement lurked a new doubt. Could he truly let go? The walls he built inside persisted, whispering fears of instability, threatening to drown out his newfound courage. What if Ryan flourished and he remained stagnant? What if he wasn't equipped to participate in the spontaneity that made life vibrant? The complexities crowded his mind, a storm brewing as they walked along the shoreline. Just as he felt ready to voice these fears to Ryan, the boy spotted a large, shimmering shell half buried in the sand. Unearthing it with determination, Ryan turned to him, eyes gleaming. "This is beautiful. Look what I found." In that moment, John realized something was changing in him. Perhaps it wasn't just about planning or forging connections, but about embracing the unexpected, much like Ryan was doing now. The shell was an embodiment of untapped potential, a reminder to cherish both blessings and challenges. Emboldened by this revelation, John decided they would not only map out their travels, but embark on a quest for personal truths, discoveries that hugged the edges of their fears. How would they tackle the unforeseen detours? Would they come out stronger, their relationship fortified against doubts? With an intention to carry this newfound spirit into their discussions, he felt a determination surging within him. As Ryan laughed and darted off to explore further, John's heart brimmed with hope. Yet the question nagged at him. Was he ready to confront the inner architect that still held sway over his life? The whispers of uncertainty swelled with urgency as he prepared himself for the next steps of this uncharted journey into fatherhood and self-discovery. As the sun sank below the horizon, John could not shake the realization that the map before them was without a certain grid, but full of potential adventures, each one waiting to be uncovered in its own time. What lay ahead was still shrouded in mystery, but the unfolding journey beckoned. John awoke the next morning with a jolt, the frantic clamor of the ocean crashing against the shore, pulling him from his dreams. He was still processing the profound insights from the previous day, yet a new urgency stirred within him. What would today bring? Would he truly embrace the challenges ahead with Ryan? After a quick breakfast, John found Ryan perched on a log, peering out towards the horizon. The sun broke over the water, illuminating the boy's features, a reflection of unfettered excitement that John envied. "What's on the agenda today, Dad?" Ryan's voice cut through the morning air, bright with possibility. John took a deep breath. "I was thinking maybe we could explore a little further, go down the coast. I haven't really seen what lies beyond the beach we're staying at." The words seemed to release something bottled up inside him, a willingness to engage the unknown right alongside Ryan. Their path took them cluttered with shells and dry driftwood, both deliberate in their steps, but John's thoughts spiraled with concerns. The uncertainty of today felt like a reflection of everything he feared about their journey together. Would he be able to keep up? What if Ryan wanted spontaneity, and he was unable to adapt? As they approached a rocky inlet, John noticed that Ryan had a habit of pacing himself with determination, but wasn't initially as concerned about safety. John hesitated, thinking of potential pitfalls. What if Ryan fell or got hurt? But as he observed his son, something shifted in him. The reckless abandon of youth radiated from Ryan's enthusiasm. "Okay, you lead," he finally said, an edge of surrender in his voice. The truth was, holding on to restrictions stifled personal growth. Every time he relinquished control, he felt a release of energy. The decision was less about allowing Ryan to forge his path and more about discovering the freedom in uncharted waters himself. With little hesitation, Ryan sprinted toward the edge of the rocks. John's heart raced, not merely from worry, but from the thrill of this shared spontaneity. Yet, he hadn't anticipated the moment when Ryan lost his footing, slipping between the stones into a tide pool. There was a collective gasp in the air as John lunged forward, grasping Ryan's arm just in time. Ryan stumbled back, but soon erupted into laughter, the fall leading to an impromptu splash that doused both of them. The little pool became a playground rather than a hazard. "That was awesome!" Ryan yelled, completely unperturbed. For a heartbeat, John felt a wave of panic fuse with joy, a delicious mixture of parenthood's pressures colliding with the laughter of adventure. This was what he craved, but couldn't articulate. As Ryan flailed joyously in the water, John realized he was at a critical juncture, a moment of personal revelation. He was starting to understand that the unplanned elements led to deeper connections. "Hey, we should try that again!" Ryan exclaimed, already itching to dive back in. The enthusiasm was infectious, rekindling the forgotten child within John. Together, they embraced the splash, each dive representing a leap into vulnerability. With every timid step, the question morphed. It was no longer about whether he could embrace change, but rather how much change he could withstand. As their laughter echoed amidst the waves, the shackles of self-imposed limits began to fracture. John felt something inside kicking loose, a powerful draw towards resilience. Each misstep could transform into joy. Each lesson was a stone upon which to build a more profound relationship with Ryan. However, deeper thoughts gnawed at him as they settled down afterward, dripping from head to toe on a sunny rock, unrefined but fulfilling. This moment held an undercurrent of urgency. Could he let go of the roles that constrained him? Would the layers he shed pave the way for a new identity, a newer version of himself alongside his son? The question loomed, waiting to be articulated in the crux of their playful banter. John knew each interaction counted, shaping both a father's and a son's understanding of what they could become. As he submerged himself in these thoughts, the sea's rhythm matched his heartbeat closely, whispering truths he was yet to confront. Yet the thrill of that uncertainty lingered, as tantalizing as the next adventure. What lay on the horizon beyond their current escapade? Something told him the answer was ephemeral, but critical. "Let's go find another tide pool!" Ryan cheered, breaking through his contemplations, and in that moment, John realized that diving into the unknown was not just a physical leap. It was an invitation to explore the depths within himself too. But just as they set off, a shadow in the distance caught his eye. Could it be an omen or simply another unexplored facet of their journey? The question gripped his mind with new urgency, pulling him deeper into the day's unfolding mysteries. The laughter still echoed in John's ears as they walked, but the shadow he'd glimpsed lingered in his mind, looming larger with each step. They strolled down the coastline, each wave crashing rhythmically, reminiscent of the uncertainty thrumming within him. Ryan darted ahead, not just seeking the next tide pool, but embodying the spirit of adventure that John had buried deep beneath years of responsibility. As they approached a rocky outcrop, John noticed that the shadow wasn't just a figment of his imagination. It was a small cliff, jagged and inviting. It looked like the perfect spot for exploration, but he hesitated. The allure to let Ryan lead surged within him, yet fear clutched painfully at his insides. Climbing could escalate their exploration from playful to perilous in an instant. "Dad, check this out!" Ryan called, his voice tingling with pure, unfiltered joy. John followed to see Ryan balancing on the edge of the boulder, the wind tousling his hair as he extended his arms like a bird ready to take flight. His son appeared so poised, so fearless, while John's heart raced with concern. What if he fell? What if he got hurt? The worry washed over him like a wave, trying to pull him back into safety. But in that moment, John undid the clasp of his fears, recognizing that his son needed this freedom. "Just be careful," he managed to say, voice steady but tinged with caution. There was strength in vulnerability. He had to believe that. Ryan's exhilarating laughter broke the spell of John's anxiety. Each chuckle represented a thread, weaving them closer, transforming the moment into an opportunity for shared discovery rather than calculated caution. John felt an urge to climb up behind Ryan, to join him at the precipice. Perhaps together they could conquer both the cliff and the fears they each harbored. Just as Ryan jumped down from the boulder, landing with skillful balance, a sudden gust of wind knocked John off-center. He faltered, feeling the dizzying rush of adrenaline and a twinge of panic. As he regained his footing, he was surprised to find a clear thought forming within the chaos. He needed to let go of the notion that he had to shield Ryan from every risk. The weight of his role was crushing. Being just a father didn't have to equate to being a warden. "Come on, Dad! We can climb that too!" Ryan shouted impatiently, already moving towards the cliff. John took a deep breath, grounding himself against the urgency of the moment. He stepped forward, steadying his resolve. This was about more than just climbing. It was about allowing both himself and Ryan to rise to the challenges ahead, recognizing their strengths in vulnerability. As they scaled the rock face together, John felt a burgeoning sense of capability beginning to unfurl. The small triumphs weren't just markers of physical achievement. They began unlocking something dormant within him. Each scrabble for purchase brought forth fragments of self-belief in vivid clarity, edging out the worry that loomed like an unanswered question. By the time they reached the top, John felt the once timorous weight of his apprehensions give way. He stood beside Ryan, surveying the coastline, an infinite stretch of possibilities glimmering in the sunlight. This wasn't just a view. It was a newfound perspective on life, freedom, and who he could be alongside his son. John reveled in the embrace of joy and pride that far surpassed his earlier fears. Then came a moment of silence instead of laughter. Watching a woman walk down the beach, a frown knitted upon her brow, John's instincts ignited again. Something about her presence stirred a familiar discomfort. Was she a sign of something deeper? What challenges could lie ahead with this ambiguous specter of concern? John felt a jolt of foreboding, a shadow reflecting the change upon him. Today had shifted something fundamental within him, yet an unsettling truth loomed too. The question he faced now carried newfound weight. Could he keep up with the unpredictability of life as a father? How would he handle it when duties demanded more than just a casual exploration? Ryan leaned over the edge, casting one last gleeful glance back at John, unaware of the darker ripple pooling beneath their shared adventure. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once to consider that this journey was only just beginning. What awaited them on this new path? Would it require a different kind of strength, or could they find even more resilience together? "Let's go find more surprises," Ryan cried out, pulling John back towards the shore. Each step became an invitation to embrace the unknown, despite shadows that threatened to strangle his hopes. Yet John knew he couldn't allow fear to restrict him any longer. The tension between discovery and apprehension gnawed at him, imbuing everything with urgency. As they prepared to leave the height of the cliff, John found himself confronting a pivotal revelation. The day's adventure was not just about exploration. It was a call to action, a confrontation with his growing self-awareness. But the sensations that loomed brought forth the critical decision. Could he truly face whatever lay on the horizon, or would the shadows win, keeping him shackled in doubt? Thus, the journey ahead shimmered with potential wrapped tightly in uncertainty, and John felt a thrill pulsating through him. As they sped off together to find the next tide pool, something told him that the unknown troubles might not just be external, but echo within his own evolving identity. The next leap would carry heavier consequences for both him and Ryan, and he was, consciously or not, standing at the brink. Would he find the strength to embrace it all? As they descended from the cliff, John could feel the surge of his newfound courage mixing with an undercurrent of uncertainty. Each step away from the rocky height felt symbolic, a descent from revelation back into everyday life. How, in the bright sun, could he navigate the murky waters of his own doubts? He respected the positive changes he had started to feel, yet the specter of fear still loomed, waiting to ensnare him again. His thoughts gravitated towards that woman on the beach. What was her story? The uncertainty she carried echoed the doubts that still clung to his psyche. As they approached the next tide pool, John couldn't shake the feeling that her frown represented something more profound, perhaps a reflection of an unresolved complexity in his own life. What awaited him beyond the thrill of the climb? Would the adventure lead to clear waters or murky depths? "Look, Dad, crabs!" Ryan's voice pulled him back, excitingly pointing to a few small crabs scuttling across the rocky boulders. John watched as his son hops from spot to spot, giggles erupting with each find. In that moment, Ryan embodied everything John had long pushed aside: unfiltered joy and uncomplicated concern. How could he allow fear to overshadow that? "Whoa, not too close," John said hesitantly, the reminder of safety slipping out instinctively, despite the conviction he'd felt just minutes earlier. As Ryan nodded and moved away from the edge, a wave of disappointment washed over John. Every instinct demanded vigilance, yet each instruction snatched the wind from the wings of his child's exploratory spirit. Was he crippling his son with caution? The anxiety churned within him again, demanding attention. To navigate this new course, John realized he must adapt. It wasn't merely about letting Ryan explore. He too had to explore his own limits, his own fears, and perhaps even the uncharted territories of fatherhood. Could he afford to redefine what it meant to be protective without being overbearing? "Hey, Ryan," John began, attempting to weave the lesson from their earlier adventure into a tangible discussion. "Do you remember when we climbed that cliff? How it felt to reach the top?" The question prompted a smile on his son's face, sparking a spark of pride that suddenly felt necessary. "Yeah, it was amazing." Ryan's eyes sparkled. "What if we tried to find something even bigger, something we could explore together?" John suggested, his voice tinged with uncertainty, yet ripe with intent. A hint of confusion crossed Ryan's face as he paused to consider, but excitement overtook it as he nodded vigorously. "Like a cave?" "Exactly, a cave," John replied, surprised at his own enthusiasm. Could this be the missing piece he needed? Encouraging Ryan to venture deeper would not just allow his son exploration, but also encourage John to confront his apprehensions. With renewed determination, John felt the pull of collaboration weaving through their interactions. They searched the beach, the next tide pool fading from mere recreation to opportunity. As they explored, John sought to balance fatherly instincts with a growing understanding that exploration was pivotal for both of them. He could teach Ryan the value of caution while also championing his independence. Yet with each step deeper into this new approach, shadows of doubt persisted. What if this openness to spontaneity opened doors he wasn't prepared for? Could a misstep send them spiraling, eroding the foundations he was working to build? Just as those thoughts surfaced, they rounded a rocky corner, and there it was, a dark, cavernous opening nestled in the cliffside, its depths whispering secrets and challenges. The air thickened with anticipation, and John's heart raced, wrestling with his instincts. "Wow! Can we go in?" Ryan's eager voice shattered the tension, yet John hesitated. He had taught Ryan to explore, to leap into the unknown, but standing before this cavern felt like confronting a primal fear. "Maybe we should check it out, but," John stammered, the weight of parental caution clashing against uncharted desires. "We should be careful inside. We don't know what we might find." Ryan paused, looking at him, the unspoken challenge in his gaze evident. His son's excitement was palpable. He could feel it inching towards the cave. Would John let fear speak louder than possibility? As they hovered before the cavern, John wrestled with the truth that stood stark against the backdrop of adventure. A daunting cliff of internal unrest lay awaiting him. Could he step forward into this unknown fear? More importantly, could both he and Ryan discover a strength far deeper than the shadows threatened to reveal? The moment weighed heavy, tension coiling around them like the sinewy rock, poised at the brink of exploration. Choices presented themselves, laden with potential rewards and pitfalls alike. The cave gathered them in its maw, a promise of discovery shimmering just beyond the veil of uncertainty. "Let's go," John murmured, his heart pounding. It was time to leap beyond the constraints of safety into a realm of possibility. Would this decision empower not just Ryan but himself? What awaited them lurking in the dark, and would he be ready to confront what emerged from the shadows? The darkness enveloped them as they crossed the threshold of the cave, John's heart racing in rhythmic syncopation with the unease coiling in his stomach. Each step echoed softly, swallowed by the cavern's chill. He could no longer see the sunlight filtering through the entrance, each footfall echoing louder than before. It was a stark reminder of the choice he had made. Clarity was both an invitation and a challenge. Ryan's excitement sparkled, rippling through the dark. "Dad, look at this!" he called, his voice a vibrant thread weaving through John's unease. John turned to see his son kneeling near a cluster of unusual rock formations, shapes that twisted and curled like ancient stories waiting to be deciphered. Ryan reached out, fascinated, and John felt warmth fill him despite the cave's coolness. It was a moment of sheer curiosity, yet the fear still lurked just beneath the surface, reminding him of all he had left unexamined in his own life. "Be careful, buddy. We don't know if those rocks are stable," John cautioned, only half aware of how quickly the instinct to protect reasserted itself. Could he balance the scales of freedom and precaution, preserving Ryan's sense of wonder without suffocating it? John crossed the space between them, squatting beside his son, his voice softer now. "It's amazing, isn't it?" "Yeah, it feels like an adventure," Ryan exclaimed, turning to him with wide eyes that glimmered with wonder. The words danced in the air, adventure. He had long forgotten what that felt like, overshadowed by responsibility and apprehension. Could this cave, cloaked in shadows and mysteries, inspire him to reclaim that lost sense? As they explored deeper, John's gaze drifted over etched patterns on the rock walls, each one igniting flickers of recognition within him. Stories filled those patterns, tales of explorers, bravery, and mistakes. They resonated with fragments of his own life, where he had often allowed fear to eclipse his potential. What if he, too, had a narrative worth discovering? "Do you think people came here a long time ago?" Ryan asked, breaking the thread of his thoughts, his small fingers tracing the grooves in the stone. "Definitely. They might have been curious just like us," John replied, the idea sparking deeper reflections. Were they truly following in the footsteps of adventurers, or was he simply projecting his aspirations onto his son? The weight of parental influences felt heavy, yet transformative. The cave narrowed, a passage that seemed to close in around them. Ryan started to stroll ahead, his little body moving through shadows with fearless enthusiasm. John felt tension tighten in his chest, gripping where protective instincts clashed with the newfound courage he hoped to instill in Ryan. "Hey, wait up! Stay close to me, okay?" he called out, but the timbre of his voice carried an urgency laced with something deeper, his own fear of losing control. Ryan turned with a frown, sensing the tension seeping through the air. "It's no fun if I can't explore, Dad." His declaration hung heavy, a demand that resonated within John's core. How could he defeat the tyrant of caution without letting chaos reign? "You're right," John replied, taking a deep breath, attempting to ground himself. "Let's explore, but we'll do it together. Every discovery can teach us something new." And in that exchange, he felt a shift. The act of cooperating, of sharing responsibility and delight with his son, stirred something raw within him, a desire to break shackles he hadn't realized he wore. This exploration was as much for him as it was for Ryan. Further in, they stumbled across a wide chamber where glimmering crystals sparkled like stars scattered above. In that ethereal space, John's insecurities began to fade into insignificance against the vastness of possibility. The hidden beauty might mirror the hidden potential within himself. "Look at how beautiful it is," Ryan exclaimed, his voice echoing in delight, the moment saturating them both in awe. "Yes, it is," John whispered, heartstrings threading anew with resolve. Could he grasp this beauty not just for Ryan, but for himself too? As tension ebbed away, excitement burgeoned. They were united in discovery, illuminating the facets of each other's hearts. "Let's see what else is hidden in here," John suggested, a determined conviction shaping his intention. They were explorers in search of treasures. The darkness no longer felt foreboding, but rather promising. Yet, just as they ventured deeper, an echo clawed at the edges of awareness. A lingering doubt still lurked, threatening to darken the beautiful connection being forged. What if darkness turned to danger? As they navigated deeper, John's resolve faced a test of its own. Would he choose to lead them through mystery and fear, or revert to familiar habits of control and worry? Something shifted within him then, a realization that this journey required not just exploration of the cave, but an exploration of self. Could he leap into the unknown alongside Ryan, leaving behind the limitations that had shadowed him for so long? In the heart of the cave, as the flickers of light danced around them, a new chapter awaited. Would John finally confront the fear tethered to his ambitions, or would this adventure lead them both deeper into uncertainty? The cavern extended further into darkness, whispering promises of revelations yet unseen, daring John to embrace the light amidst the lurking shadows. The moment called for courage, both to step forward with Ryan into the unknown and to confront whatever lay within the recesses of his own heart. The journey was far from over. The cave deepened as they pushed further into its embrace, each new chamber revealing intricate designs on the walls that flickered in their flashlight beams. John's heart thrummed with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation, an internal battle echoing the reverberations of the cavern around them. For every step they took into the cave, he felt himself stepping away from the boundaries of his own comfort, as if the stone walls were stripping away the layers of self-doubt and anxiety. "Look at this one, Dad!" Ryan's voice broke through his reverie, a bright note echoing against the cold stone. John moved closer, drawn in by the enthusiasm pulsing from his son. The rock formation shimmered, rough edges contrasting with the smooth, cool surfaces surrounding it. It seemed like a metaphor, a powerful signal of how beauty could emerge from jagged experiences. "It's incredible," John responded, kneeling beside Ryan. He contrasted the child's unguarded thrill with his own insecurities. That joy illuminated a pathway he had long neglected, an opportunity for reflection. "You know, these rocks have probably been here for millions of years. They've endured a lot." Ryan nodded in rapt attention, eyes wide with possibility. "And they're still here, Dad, just like us." The simplicity of his son's realization dug deep. What had he allowed to fade in his life? Why had he defensively encased his own desires behind practicality and fear? Every careful decision made over the years, intended to ensure safety and security, had stifled not only his dreams, but also his connection with Ryan. Was it too late to reclaim that lost spirit, the audacity to explore not just the cave, but the vast landscape of his own life? With determination rising within, John decided to step deeper into the cave's heart, both physically and emotionally. "Let's go further," he declared. They walked side by side, an empowered duo ready to unveil mysteries both external and internal. As they moved forward, John reflected on the cycles of his life that revolved around the predictable, mapping out his days with mundane precision. Diving into entrepreneurship had once felt like a grand adventure, yet he had let ambitious impulses gut themselves under the constraints of societal expectations. Could he still become the person he once dreamed he would be? Was this holistic journey into the cave a chance to retrieve his authenticity? Suddenly, Ryan stumbled, catching himself just before falling into a small crevice. Panic shot through John, a visceral response that ignited old protective instincts. "Are you okay?" he asked, rushing to his son's side, his heart racing anew. "I'm fine, Dad. It's just a little rocky here." Ryan laughed, a note of pure joy in his voice. "I can handle it." John's instinct was to shield, but the infectious thrill in Ryan's laughter was a potent reminder of the very adventure he had stifled in himself. There was beauty in uncertainty, he began to realize, and the willingness to embrace it, both with his son and within himself, felt liberating. Instead of reverting to instinctual avoidance, he took a deep breath. "I know you can, buddy," John responded, a grin breaking across his face. "But let's make sure we're careful together. Here, I'll help guide you." As they moved cautiously, a sense of shared responsibility bloomed. It was a small step, but the action rippled with meaning. Perhaps he could foster resilience in Ryan while simultaneously unearthing courage in himself. With each new illuminated corner of the cave, shadows of doubt and fear continued to dissipate. In the midst of their exploration, they stumbled upon a breathtaking underground pool, its surface shimmering like glass under their lights. John knelt beside it, entranced, reflecting the shifting light across his face. This was more than just a cave, a sanctuary of introspection. The pool mirrored his journey, a deep, unknown depth awaiting his discovery. "This place is amazing, Dad," Ryan squealed, splashing water at the reflections of themselves, unfettered and alive. "Yes, it is," John whispered, his voice trembling with newfound understanding. In that moment, he grasped that he wasn't merely guiding Ryan. They were heeding an invitation to rediscover lost dreams and define their future. Would they venture further, past the safety of their known path, or would John revert to the safety of his old ways? The question lingered, sparking within him a determination to strive for more than he ever thought possible. The cave continued to unfold before them, a labyrinth filled with potential. As they stared down into the crystalline depths, a thought provoked him. A question of whether he had the courage to confront the currents of his untapped aspirations. Would he fully embrace this moment and the one it promised? An echo reverberated against the walls, pulling at the edges of his awareness. Deep within that darkness lay the answer to a deeper inquiry. Was he ready to confront not just the cave's secrets, but the very essence of his own uncharted ambitions? As they prepared to move deeper into the cave, uncertainty loomed just ahead. But in that uncertainty lay the potential for transformation, beckoning them both to step into the darkness where true discovery awaited. The deeper they ventured into the cave, the more John felt the layers of uncertainty peel away, revealing a newfound determination. The air was thick with dampness, and yet the spark of adventure flickered alive within him. With every step, he felt less like the architect of his fears and more like a collaborator on an extraordinary journey with Ryan. "Look here!" Ryan exclaimed, his voice echoing joyfully as he pointed to a series of illuminated stalactites hanging overhead like nature's chandeliers. The cavern glowed softly, casting a magical light that danced on the walls. John was reminded of how often he had overlooked the beauty in life's little moments, tethered instead to professional expectations and societal definitions of success. Impressive, right? Just like our own struggles, they can turn into something beautiful, John remarked, an understanding rising within him. They were standing in a magnificent display of nature's resolve, much like their own lives, beauty born from the trials they faced. For the first time, John felt the weight of expectation lift, replaced with clarity. Perhaps he could redefine his legacy alongside Ryan instead of for him. Ryan scrambled further into the cavern, drawn to an opening at the far wall. "Dad, come check this out!" His son's laughter rang through the chamber, a reminder of the vibrancy John had long cherished yet risked losing amid his ambition. John joined Ryan, who had discovered a small alcove filled with sparkling crystals mirroring the potential within them both. The splendor of those stones shone brightly as each facet reflected the changing light, illuminating shadows that had once dominated John's life. In that moment, he grasped the essence of growth. It wasn't about protecting oneself from failures, but embracing each challenge as an opportunity, crafting elegance from chaos. "Ryan, this is what it's all about. Whenever we face something challenging, we come out shining like these crystals," John shared, truly connecting with his son now. "You see, life may have rocky paths, but from those experiences, incredible things can emerge." As he spoke, John realized he wasn't merely imparting wisdom, but engaging in a profound reflection of his own journey. Each bump in the road, each moment of discomfort had helped shape his character and ignite his spirit. If he could embrace imperfections, so could Ryan, an empowering realization that could solidify their bond forever. "Do you think we can polish our own lives like these jewels?" Ryan asked, his gaze piercing into John's understanding, innocence framed by curiosity. "Absolutely," John affirmed, his confidence surging as he considered Ryan's perspective. "We just have to be willing to uncover our layers, expose ourselves to challenges, and be open to learning from them." Suddenly, a flicker of anxiety surged through John as they prepared to navigate deeper, the cave beckoning with an alluring promise of discovery and potential dangers that could await in its heart. Would he remain steadfast as he ventured uncharted territory, or retreat to the familiar comfort zones that had confined him for so long? "Ready for more?" John asked, astonished by how much he yearned to plunge into the unknown, to foster growth in both of them. It was a collective exploration, one of personal aspirations and self-discovery. "Yes!" Ryan jumped in excitement, the spirit of adventure reflected in his father's willingness to follow. They pressed forward, passing through twisting passageways and shimmering reflections, each step illuminating new dimensions of their evolving relationship. It wasn't long before they found themselves in the cave's grandest chamber, a vast space where light poured from a hidden ceiling, bathing them in ethereal glow. John felt a swell of emotion rise as he surveyed the openness that lay before them, a stark contrast to the constraints that once dominated his mind. It dawned on him that embracing vulnerability had propelled him into an expansive sense of possibility. "Wow, Dad, this is like a treasure room," Ryan shouted, his enthusiasm contagious as he flitted from formation to formation, eager to touch the various crystalline structures. John smiled, recognizing in Ryan the essence of a truth he had all but forgotten. "Maybe this room is finally what we've been searching for," John mused, his voice steadied by emotion. "Freedom, joy, and adventure. In a way, it's the promise of what lies ahead." As they explored this sanctuary of light, the shadows that had once haunted him faded into the background. Here, John fully understood that every risk he took in nurturing Ryan's independence also opened the door for his own liberation, one layered within the relationship they were forming. Their bond was transforming from dependence to partnership, each emerging in their own right. "Let's create a treasure map," John suggested suddenly, excitement bubbling through him like the water cascading through adjacent caverns. Not just of this cave, but our lives. Where do we want to go? What do we want to uncover? I want to find even more cool places, Ryan gleefully interjected, his eyes alight with the possibilities. Let's do it together then. A journey of exploration. They sat alongside the crystalline formations, sketching out a plan filled with dreams and ideas, destinations for travel, milestones for their personal growth, and a shared commitment to embrace whatever life throws their way. Each mark on the imaginary map served as not just a place to see, but a representation of experiences yet to unfold, lessons learned, fears faced, and triumphs earned. As they laughed and designed their dreams, John felt solid confidence take root in his heart. The shadows of doubt that had lingered moments ago were illuminated by collective purpose, laughter, and a relatable journey ahead. In that sacred cave, both son and father emerged, no longer bound to outdated notions of legacy, but liberated by an authentic quest for discovery. They learned that true fulfillment lay not in guarding against failure, but rather in embracing it, understanding that shadows could create depth and resilience could bloom in the face of adversity. The best treasure is the journey itself, right? John said, holding Ryan's gaze, a promise shimmering in their shared connection. Absolutely, Dad. We're going to find the best treasures. Ryan grinned, the joy reflecting in his spirit. As they prepared to exit the cave, ambiguity loomed ahead like the mouth of the cave. What lay beyond would test them both, yet crystallize the truth that they could navigate it together. John realized he had achieved a significant transformation. He had embraced what it meant to be a father who not only guides but actively collaborates, exploring his own layers of rediscovery with each step alongside Ryan. Their relationship was now an evolving blueprint, one crafted in trust and understanding. Emerging from the darkness, the sunlight poured over them, overwhelming in its warmth. They stepped into the light, hands clasped, father and son, explorers not just of the world, but of themselves. Every clear sky, every new horizon brought an invitation to continue growing together, knowing that with each adventure, life transformed into something beautifully unpredictable. Dad, let's make sure we don't stop here, Ryan exclaimed, his voice bright with determination. Never, John chuckled, secure in the knowledge that their journey had only just begun. As they took their first steps toward the next adventure, John understood, with solid clarity, that he could continue crafting his own path of fulfillment while helping Ryan forge his own. This was the legacy he had desired all along, a foundation built on shared dreams, steadfast resilience, and an insatiable thirst for exploration that would lead them both to incredible heights. With a heart full of hope, John led Ryan into the future, ready for whatever treasures awaited them down the road. This was their moment, the moment to embark on a lifelong exploration of self, adventure, and relentless courage, boldly establishing a dynamic neither could have visualized alone. The call was loud and clear. This was only the beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because it really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your true support.